April 17th, and I thought me and day that at last that I would talk to you about my superpower, my writing, my writing. Me and day, writing has always been my passion. I don't remember a time when I didn't write. I don't remember a time when I didn't write. And I think it makes the stories peculiar given um, where I was born. Those of you who have listened to, who are listening to my podcast, know that I was born in Cameroon, that I left Cameroon in 1993. You know that I'm disabled. You know that I've been disabled since 1 month old, since I was 1 month old. And because I was born in a traditional, I shouldn't say that, because I was born in Cameroon in a very, very complicated environment. My dad, Fotso Victor, I talk to you about him all the time. One of the first Pan-African industrialists, one of the wealthiest men in Africa. He was the wealthiest man in Cameroon when I was born and throughout my childhood. So when I'm born and that I'm disabled, it makes my life very, very complicated. Very, very complicated. Disability is never easy anywhere, but in that context, it's very, very difficult because there's a lot of baggage that comes with disability. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of superstition. There's a lot of stuff. And for me, the child of this wealthy guy who has many wives, who has many children, I'm a disabled child. So it becomes a problem. And I sense it very, very early on. I sense it. Children sense stuff, even when they don't know what it is that they're sensing, they sense stuff. Me, I sense that guilt. I sense that superstition. It had a bad smell. It had a bad smell. You sense it. You sense. You carry the guilt of making the woman who gave birth to me, of making her sad, of making her unhappy, because for her, being the wife of Fotso Victor, of my dad, of this wealthy guy who has given him a disabled child, was a huge burden. So when you know that for the woman who gives birth to you, you're a burden, if you don't have something, an outlet that shields you from all of that, aggression from the outside world, even, the gaze of people um, was aggressive. Everything was aggressive. Yeah, there was a lot of pity. There was a lot of even glee with the fact that Fotso Victor, one of the wealthiest men in Africa, the wealthiest man in Cameroon at the time, could have a disabled child. So as a child, I sensed that. And writing appears, I think, if I want to be mythical about it, to give me a way to escape all of that. I start writing, I think I'm about 6 years old, and I don't really read yet. I write just to express what I know I can't say, what I see, and that is overwhelming, but that I know that I can't say. And that's the way I write. I start writing. I write in French. I write short stories at a time. Um, I don't know if it's good. I don't know if I'm doing it well, but I just write because I feel like I need to write. And I think that there's something within me that has to get out. That's something within me that has to get out. So that's why I'm writing. And at the time, it was obvious that I was, writing a lot. I remember the woman who gave birth to me was like, "What, what are you doing? What is this going to give you?" Nobody believed in it. People felt like it was just something stupid, that didn't make any sense. Nobody in my family environment took my writing seriously. Nobody did. But I kept doing it. It didn't matter. I was writing because I needed to write. I didn't know if I were any good. I didn't know if I were any good. I didn't know. I had no idea. So the more um, I write, the more I read. You know, I start becoming a voracious reader. I read a lot of things, a lot of books, anything that I can put my hands on. I just read. I read, I write, and I think for me, the turning point is when I'm about 13. I have a one of my youngest sister goes and tells this lie that I write poetry because there was a poetry show on Cameroonian TV, which was like the lousy,est one of the most, the worst show ever, on Cameroon TV. I remember the name of it. I think maybe the name of it was like Romance, something like it was terrible. And for us, it was even worse because it was before our favorite cartoon at the time. So it was just the worst thing. So it was it wasn't very flattering for my little sister to claim that I was writing poetry. And when she said that, I was like, huh, maybe I should try. And that's how I started writing poetry. And I started to write poetry because it just fit. And I remember we were coming back from a trip in Paris. I think it was 1992. 1992, yes. And I bought The Flower of Evil of Baudelaire, Les Fleurs du Mal. Buy this book, and I remember the woman who gave birth to me at the time was like, "You can't. You are 13. There's no way you're gonna understand Baudelaire, Flower of Evil at 13." But when people tell me that I can't do something, I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. So I bought that book, at the airport, at the French airport, Charles de Gaulle airport, and I was taking it everywhere with me. And so my poetry writing was basically imitating Baudelaire. It was all I was doing. At the time, yeah, I'm in high school, and that's when something is happening because my French professors tell me that I write well. I remember when I was writing stuff for French classes, my professors, um, eighth grade, ninth grade, and a 10th grade, started to say that I was writing very, very well. I was the best, one of the best, French student, French literature student. That's where I'm thinking, huh, there's something there. And I think that for me, the confirmation that I was good at my writing is when I write a letter to my dad. My parents got divorced when I was about 9, and I write a letter to my dad. It's in 1992. Yeah, I write him a letter, and I say to him, "I want to go to the United States. I need to go." I was 13 at the time. I was 13. And surprisingly, I told you my dad can't read and can't write, but people read. I didn't know that at the time. So people read him the what I wrote. And I think that surprisingly, he picked up that there was something there. He receives a letter. People read it to him. He calls me to his office in Yaoundé. His office in the Cinema Abia. People who know that one of the first cinemas in the capital of Cameroon, Yaoundé. So I goes to my dad's office and he says, "Yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right." That's what my dad said. Even though he didn't read it, people read it to him. Looking back at it, I think that person told him, "There's no way somebody who's 13 wrote that." That's my sense of it. So when I get to my dad, he says, "You're right, you're right, you're right. You write all the stuff that you said." He was trying to ascertain whether I was the one who had really written the letter, and he was trying to see if, the woman who gave birth to me didn't influence me. So we have this talk, and he says to me, what you want to be? And I say to him, I'm gonna be a writer, and I'm gonna win the Nobel Prize for literature. And my dad looks at me and says, you have to be reasonable with your ambitions. That's the only time in my life when my dad told me that I couldn't do something. It had to do with writing, because he felt that that was, something that couldn't happen, writing. Because even with all of his genius, even with his discipline, even with his hard work, my dad was never able to learn how to read or to write. So to him, the fact that his daughter, his disabled daughter, could say, could say, oh, I'm going to become a writer and I'm going to win the Nobel Prize for literature, was just like, nah. So that's the only time in my life my dad said, you have to be less ambitious. Come on, you can't do that. A year I get to the United States, Toni Morrison wins the Nobel Prize for literature. Toni Morrison wins the prize, the Nobel Prize for literature. And I look at it and I'm just like, I never heard of Toni Morrison. I wasn't really speaking English. I don't think I wasn't good in English when I was in Cameroon. We had terrible teachers. In French, I had great professors in high school in Cameroon, but the English professors were awful. That's not true. My first English teacher was very, very good. And I think the last one was too, but in the between, awful, awful, awful. So when I get to the US, I had to repeat a year because they thought that that was the only way I could learn English and do my studies at the same time. Writing becomes a huge part, a huge part. I think that's really when I start to realize that I'm very, very good at it. You have to understand, for me, it, being good didn't matter. I only had to do it. I didn't write because I thought I was going to be good. Even when I say to my dad, I'm going to win the Nobel Prize in literature for literature, I never think, oh, it's because I'm good. I just think I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the best that I can be, but I'm not even sure that I'm good. But I'm thinking, yes, that's the goal. But it's something that I love to do. So when I get to America, the surprise to me, I write in French, mostly poetry. But when I start to write in English, it works. It works because writing in English is easier than writing in French. It's easier. Writing in English is a little bit like Federer, Roger Federer playing at Wimbledon. It feels effortless. It feels effortless. You just like boom. When you do it well, just boom. To me, it's like easy, quick matches. Mostly, the grass is very, very fast. So yeah, you go when you know what to say. If your grammar is good, even if it isn't good, you can you can use the word processor to basically correct it. So it can go very, very fast. And if you do it well, it can just be masterful. But it's fast, it's quick. If you're athletic, it's very good. It's like Federer at Wimbledon. Writing in French is like Rafael Nadal at the French Open at Roland Garros. Very, very hard. It can be pretty, but you see the dirt, you see the hard work. It's physical. You have to put even when you're great, as Rafa Nadal was, your matches can last a long, long, long time. You have to grind it out. You have to sweat it. It's long. When you write, it's long, long sentences. You have to, everything is a lot of hard work. Right. So writing in In French, if you don't like hard work, if you like easy stuff, if you have no patience, it's very, very tough to write well. It's very, very tough to write well in French. It's very, very tough to write well in French if you don't have any patience, if you haven't read a lot, if you like quick stuff. It's very, very difficult to write well in French. Yeah, but writing in English, Wimbledon goes fast. If you learn the basics, you can be very, very athletic. You can be very, very good at it, and you can go very, very, very fast. Before Rafa Nadal, very, very few people could win Roland Garros and win Wimbledon because it was two different things. I think for me, I would say that it's true with writing. It's very, very difficult to write well in two languages. And usually, if you speak two languages, you don't really want to write in two languages because it's a lot of work. And because if you do it well in one language, you have a tendency uh, to want to redo things. Being a writer and being a translator, two different things. Two different things. People ask me all the time, why don't you translate your French book in English? Because if I translate something that I wrote in French in English, I'm going to rewrite it. I'm not going to translate it because I wrote it. I'm going to feel like I can make it better. I can do this. Yeah. So when I get to the US, Miente, I discover, yeah, writing is my superpower. I can do it in English. I can do it in French. It has helped me in all type of situation, even when I couldn't speak English well. Even with the fact that I speak very, very fast, I could always write it very, very well. I could always, uh, even with my work, write an email and know that this is going to be very, very good. He has given me access to a lot of stuff, open doors for me, writing. I write in English mostly for work. It's starting to change. The writer I identify the most with on this subject is Samuel Beckett, who was an English speaker, who was writing in French. That is the one of the toughest things possible. For me, it's easier if you go from French to English than to go from English to French, because again, it's very, very tough to write in French. Very, very, very tough. It's not the same thing. So for Beckett, who decided, even though he was an Irishman, to write in French, he said this: I write in French because of the desire to be badly loved. Le désir d'être mal aimé. Le désir d'être mal aimé. And for me, it's the same thing. I think that if you write in French, even though you could write in English, it has a lot to do with the fact that you know that there's a lot of complexity there. There's a lot of space for misunderstanding. There's a lot of space for criticism. And yeah, there's a lot of space to be badly loved, to be misunderstood, for people not to get it, for people not to get it. So yeah, mi gente, writing, writing, writing. It started with my disability. Would I say that I wouldn't be a writer if I weren't disabled? I don't know. I think I may have missed it. There may have been a distraction to me. There may have been other ways for me to express all of all of what I was feeling, given where I was born and given the huge burden that being disabled, was for not only me but the people around me. And I think that writing is indispensable for me, not to be crushed by it. No, I was burdened by it, but writing became a weapon and a shield, something that made it possible for me not to just have to take it and to become like a tool or, something that people use to make fun of my father. I think that, yeah, for me, that what writing has always been my superpower. Even, with what has happened to my dad, even with this podcast, writing is at the center of it. I need to write it. Even when I don't write the episode, I write sentences in English or in French. It's key. It's key. It makes the communication way easier. It makes it possible for me to know what I'm feeling and to digest what I know, to digest what I know. And I think that right now I'm writing again in English, not just for work, because this story, my story, the one of Victor Fotso, has to be told not only in French, given um, the French history here. It's essential, niente. It's essential. The podcast, yeah, it's a tool in a way to do what I it's taking me a longer time to do in English, to tell the story, the history, and to make you see why futsal matters, why disability matters, and why African lives matter. Writing, essential. The podcast, in a way, is also a different way for me to write. Stream of consciousness, sometimes, but not all the time. I'm writing more and more on the episode that I present to you. So yeah, niente, writing, my superpower. It has made my disability part of me that I don't have to be burdened by, to be crushed by. Writing made that possible. So yeah, writing, power, weapon, and a shield. On reste ensemble and see you next Tuesday. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. Happy Easter. Niente.